Hello and welcome to Casual Veteran Gamer. In the video today, we're going to be looking at the Elf and Half-Elf races and their sub-races. I've decided to mix Elf and Half-Elf because they don't get much past level 1, so it will be quite quick to discuss and show you them. Now, going through the race features for Elves, we can see for both High Elf and Wood Elf, these are the same. They get keen senses, so proficient in perception, which is useful all the time because perception gets rolled quite consistently throughout the game. They can't be put to sleep. When this comes up, this is really amazing. I'm always so thankful when my characters cannot be put to sleep by enemy spellcasters, because it does happen. They get dexterity +2 and proficiency in 4 different weapons: a longsword, short sword, longbow and shortbow, and dark vision. The weapon proficiencies, I think, are really useful, because it means you can give any class the option of a ranged attack. And the fact that they get dexterity +2 probably means that you might be putting some more of the ability scores into dexterity. So you're not going to be bad with using a bow, and there's no way you're going to have a negative modifier for using the bow. So for example, on my first playthrough, I think it was Shadowheart. No, I didn't like it with Shadowheart because the dexterity is 9. It's so annoying. It was on one of my other characters. I think it was actually my wizard. He was a high elf, and I gave him a bow because why not? And also, you can also get long swords and short swords, so you can be dual wielding if you need to, and so on. So for elves, we have got 2 choices. We start off with a high elf, and what makes them different to the wood elf is that the high elf gets to choose a cantrip, which is a wizard cantrip. I'm not going to go through each of these spells. Most of them have a use. Don't take True Strike. Depending on what you want to be doing, you can take a different cantrip. If you're not a wizard, maybe you want to have a damaging cantrip for some reason, you take Firebolt or Ray of Frost or Acid Splash. You choose. Basically, one of the main perks of being a high elf is that you get to pick a cantrip. The other thing that's different between the high elf and the wood elf are the subrace traits. They don't both. High elves have a base racial speed of 30 feet, and they get +1 intelligence. So high elves, what classes are they suitable for? Well, the dexterity makes them suitable for rangers, rogues, fighters that will help, though on fighting maybe you want strength as your main stat, which we don't have in an elf. And obviously wizard, because of the extra intelligence, and in fact you get an extra cantrip, so maybe you can get 4 cantrips instead of 3, which is always going to be useful. Then let's have a look at the wood elf. So wood elf, they don't get any choices, right? This is just what we get here. So they get fleet of foot, so their walking speed is 35 feet. That's the highest base walking speed of anything in the game at the moment. They get proficiency in stealth and wisdom +1. I think the movement speed is really useful. There's never a time when you wants to be slower, so being faster is definitely useful. You get to better positions, run away or whatever. Being proficient in stealth, extra proficiencies never hurt, and wisdom +1. Now, going to classes, they're mostly going to be the same as the high elf, except instead of having wizard as a good class for wood elf, ranger instead, because they will use wisdom for their spells. But also cleric. Clerics need wisdom, and you could give your cleric some medium or light armor to increase their armor class. Though the other parts of being a wood elf, proficiency in stealth, I mean, you could have that for any character, and being fast, again, that's good for every character. So those are the 2 elves. They don't get anything at higher levels. Once you've picked wood elf or high elf, these are the things that you get given for being one of those 2 races. Moving on to half-elf. The half-elf gets 3 choice of subrace. High half-elf, wood half-elf, and drow half-elf. I could possibly have put the drow half-elf in the drow video. Maybe in hindsight I should have done. Would have been a bit more appropriate, but never mind. So the high half-elf also gets to use a high elf cantrip. The wood half-elf gets the 35 feet movement speed and proficiency in stealth. And the drow half-elf gets the drow spells. The thing that all half-elves have in common are that they are immune to be putting to sleep. Again, so very useful. Charisma +2, dark vision, and then they get to choose 2 different other abilities to increase their score by 1. You can't put both improvements into the same ability, you have to choose 2 different ones. Now this is really useful because it means you can get a maximum of 16 on 2 different abilities. Or even, sorry, you can get a maximum of 16 on 3 different abilities, one being Charisma and then 2 more of your choice. So any class that uses Charisma, at the moment Warlock, really benefits from being a half-elf, because not only can they get +2 in Charisma, they can choose to have probably extra Dexterity and Constitution, which is going to be useful for armor class and for hit points, and all the other saves for all these things. Drow also gets to do this, right? But they get their spells, their racial spells. Now for the High Half-Elf and the Wood Half-Elf, just like the elves themselves, they do not get any other benefits apart from at level 1. But the Drow Half-Elf, the Drow Half-Elf gets Fairy Fire at level 3, which I'll show you soon. So there we have it. Elves get +2 Dexterity, and then +1 Intelligence or Wisdom. Half-Elves get +2 Charisma, and then +1 to 2 other ability scores of your choice, meaning you can use a half-elf for just about any class. Ideally, since they get +2 Charisma, Warlock is probably the obvious choice, but since you get to put +1 to 2 different ability scores of your choice, you can feasibly be any class that you want. So say I want to be a let's not do that, it's a Wood Half-Elf Wizard. Fine, what am I going to do? Charisma +2, can't change that. I'm going to put +1 to Intelligence and +1 Dexterity. That increases my armor class. Alright, fine. Then go to class. Alright, Wizards. Abilities. So I don't need any points in Charisma. Don't need anything in Wisdom. And look at that, my Intelligence is at 16. I get my +2 modifier to begin with. Now maybe I want to do this. Right, look at that. Half-Elves can have quite a good spread of stats. I'll probably put it into Strength. We've got 2 stats with a +2 modifier and 1 stat with +3, and that will always be available to you as a half-elf. So let's just show you on a fighter. We don't want any intelligence. Not some intelligence. Right, what was I going to do? Strength, probably 16. So I can't put strength up to 16 unless I go back to my race, take it from intelligence, give it to strength. There it is at 16. Now I can't quite put 2 of them up to 16. I can leave one of them at 15, which is going to be useful. Alright, final thoughts. First on elves. They're a solid race. With that dexterity +2, gives them a wide range of classes that they're suitable for. They get a wizard cantrip, useful for any class. And they get proficiency in some melee weapons and some ranged weapons. So you're always going to have the option of having a ranged attack. And they are immune to being put to sleep. This is a lovely thing to have. And all of them are proficient in perception, which again, that gets rolled all the time. Between the High Elf and Wood Elf, it really depends on what class you're going for. If you're going for, well, High Elf, primarily probably going to be a wizard, but anything that uses dexterity. A Wood Elf really lends themselves to being a ranger, because you get a maximum of 17 for dexterity and 16 for wisdom upon character creation. But again, anything that a High Elf can do, a Wood Elf can do, apart from being a good wizard. Onto the Half-Elves. I feel like Half-Elves are, to me, they're almost similar to a Warlock in the sense of customizability. Warlocks get lots of options. Not that in early access they don't have all the options available to them even. For the Half-Elf, with the ability improvements, means you can be any class you want. You don't really have to worry. You can just put +1 into 2 different stats that are relevant for your class, and then you can do it. So you can create a character who is immune to sleep for every single class. You're going to have a cantrip, or if you're a wood half-elf, gets you an extra proficiency and extra speed. And if you're a drow half-elf, you get two extra spells, and maybe past early access you're going to get another spell at level 5. So here I am at level 3 on a drow half-elf, and I'm very happy to see that they do get fairy fire. I didn't really expect that they wouldn't, but it's just nice to see it. And just like I said in the drow video, fairy fire is a good spell. It gives advantage potentially to all your teammates against some creatures. It's an AoE spell. The only downsides are it can effectively miss. The enemies do get a saving throw, and it also does require concentration, which this is on a ranger, but depending on your class, your concentration may or may not be taken up by something else. Anyway, being a drow half-elf gives you pretty much most of the benefits of a drow, which is nice to see. Of the 3, I mean, I feel like it really just depends what you want. I'm finding it a bit hard to rank these because for the wood half-elf, for example, his movement speed is 35, which compared to dwarves and halflings is 10 feet extra. It's actually quite a lot extra. And being proficient in stealth, always a good thing. The high half-elf gives you a choice of a cantrip. You're not forced to take a certain spell. You get to choose what cantrip you want. So there's even more customizability there. And the drow half-elf get given dancing lights and fairy fire at level 3. And fairy fire is a decent spell. And not many classes have fairy fire at the moment. So the easiest way to get fairy fire is through your race or subrace. So yeah, overall I've got I'm too much of a wimp to give a proper ranking for the half-elves. For the elves, again, it just depends on what you want to build, what class you're playing. If you're playing a wizard, quite obviously you should pick half-elf. If you're playing a ranger, quite obviously you should pick wood elf. Otherwise, it's whether you want to have a cantrip or proficiency in stealth and extra speed. It's kind of up to you a bit more. There's like less of an obvious winner compared to the tiefling, especially, or the tieflings are a definite loser. Right, that's it. That wraps it up for this video. Leave a comment to let me know things I've gotten wrong, things you agree with, anything you found useful. Maybe I missed off talking about something that's important. Please like the video if you found it interesting, found out something new. Maybe it's made you think about something that you hadn't thought about before. All subscriptions are greatly appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one. Like the video if you enjoyed it and found out something